Okay, today we're going to talk a little bit about the color wheel. So we have three primary colors, blue, red, and yellow. And from these three primary colors, you can make every color. And just because it's hair color doesn't mean that it doesn't function on the same law or theory of color. Okay, so how you make a secondary color is you take equal parts of two primary colors and you mix them together and you get a secondary color. So if you mix red and yellow together, you're going to get orange. If you mix blue and red together, you're going to get violet. It's what we call it, or brown. Got a little too much blue in there, but okay. And then last but not least, if you mix your yellow and your blue together, you're going to get green. So when it sits on a color wheel, and I don't necessarily have a color wheel, but you'll see it in the slides that I provided, it is red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. And red sits across from green, and yellow sits across from violet, and orange sits across from blue. They sit across from each other because they're called complementary colors, and they neutralize each other out. So one of my favorite colors, and this works with hair color, is that you have somebody and they're a little bit too brassy. They got a little bit of too much yellow in their hair. So just by adding a little bit of violet in with their hair color, maybe I got a little too much violet, you end up muting it out and you make a nice soft taupe or beige color. Okay, so if you're underlining pigment, which I've written them out there on the international level system. So the international level system goes from 10 to 1. L'Oreal calls this one the lightest blonde, and they call this black. And then 6 is dark blonde. Some people differ a little bit on the blondes, but pretty much the numbering system is international. You go all across the world. You go to Africa, and you go to get a color 6, you know it's going to be a dark blonde. Some people just name it a little bit different, like darkest brown or black. Then you have underlining pigments. So if I take a piece of black hair and I put lightener on it and I leave it, it's going to go through a couple stages. First, you're going to go from black, you're going to go to brown. And then you're going to go from brown into like a red, and then red into orange, and then orange into gold, and then gold into yellow, and then pale yellow and palest yellow. And if you started off at black and you try to lift at 10 levels, you actually have hair on the floor because no hair would ever be able to lift that much. But that is theoretically how you would go through the phases of lightening. So if my client, I highlight her hair and I look at it and I go, oh, it's a little yellow, I want to use something with violet undertones to neutralize it. If I look at it and I go, it's a whole lot gold, right? So it's got more orange in it, then I'm going to use more of a blue-based color to neutralize it. And then, of course, if I had someone who was red, I would use a green base to neutralize it. So it kind of muds it out. So that's why that's very important, because they neutralize each other, they're complementary. The thing I want to talk to you about too is, and when I was asking you guys to try and decide how much pheomelanin, how much eumelanin you had in your hair, not all of you kind of understood it. So basically, if my hair is, here's like, we'll say this is a blank canvas, this is white hair, okay? And blue being your strongest one, but if I take a little bit of yellow, a little bit of red, and a little bit of blue, and I mix it into that white, it should have equal proportions and it should make like a brown. So if you take 1, 2, 3 colors, I'm putting it in white because I'm showing you how much I put in, but if you take equal amount of color and you put it together, you should have like a mud, which is a neutral color. So when you see someone and they say, what color did you use on them? And you said it was a 6N, that means that it had yellow, blue, and red in it, okay? So if my hair is red, then my base has mostly got reds and yellows and oranges, of course, together. And that's how I'm gonna have pheomelanin. If I have eumelanin, I'm gonna have a lot more blue and red pigments in their hair, like cooler pigments, the blue pigments. The blue is the strongest, so it always overpowers everything. So again, with the white hair here, if I only add like a titch of blue, a titch of red, and a titch of yellow, you get very much yellow there, I'm not going to have as dark of hair, right? So this would like maybe be a level 6 and this would be a level 3, right? How much pigment and how many dark pigments are in the hair is going to determine the level. So our level 10 with just a little bit of yellow in it and like a freckle or a tiny pinpoint of the blue and red in it. So the more color, the darker it's going to see. Your 3 primary colors, red, blue, and yellow. Your secondary colors mixing together to make your secondary. And then there's tertiary colors, which is 2 parts primary and 1 part secondary. But really in hair color, we don't get into that very much. So I hope this demonstration shows a little bit of an understanding of how color affects hair color. Thanks.